Hi there fellow YouTubers, it's Darshan Govender. Welcome to Byte Fusion. In today's video we're going to do a reaction video. We're going to react to testing the world's smartest crow. Now I've actually watched a couple of Mark Roberts videos. Very intelligent guy, worked for NASA, does a lot of scientific and engineering things. So very smart, and this looks like a fun video to watch, so I'm going to get straight into it. Yeah, so a lot of things are happening on the channel. I'm taking it more seriously and I'm starting to upload more often. So as you can see, I'm holding up to my promise at least. Right, so enough about that. Let's get straight into it.
These juicy nugs are the favorite food of...
Right, so I'm gonna take out the subtitles here. Okay, let's see how this video goes.
These juicy nugs are the favorite food of an incredibly intelligent crow, but they're being defended by this bird cage. Because if she wants to gain access to the nugs, she'll need to first solve the 9 increasingly difficult puzzles I designed to protect them. This crow escape...
This is such a fun idea, right? Imagine if this is such a fun idea, but imagine, it's just crazy the kind of content that Mark Roberts puts out, where he has he has all these fun, innovative ideas and I've seen a lot of his videos. I think I saw one previously with a hamster and it had to go through this obstacle course. So it's kind of like testing the intelligence of an animal. I think that's so cool, but in a fun, creative way. Yeah, so let's keep watching.
Broom gauntlet is extremely challenging. So challenging, in fact, for comparison, I had some young humans also attempt to solve the exact same puzzles with fascinating results. Whoa. But just like with my backyard...
And I was just thinking, is it possible for humans to solve these puzzles?
Squirrels, I will admit that in hindsight, I completely underestimated my adversary. The crows had figured out I DoorDash food to my porch on an embarrassingly regular basis. So when a car rolled up to my house and a person got out, it meant dinner was served. And this continued on for nearly every delivery, until it all came to a head one day, when they once again decided to go for my nugs. But this time, instead of giving up like a quitter, I reordered my food because I was really angry and hungry. And this is when I realized I was in over my head. Because I was no longer just having my food stolen by a crow, I was being bullied by a crow, as he just knocks over my drink and flies off. In fact, I'm no crow translator, but if you play that back at double speed, that's a bully's laugh if I've ever heard it.
Yeah.
I'm serious.
And the true irony here is, of the 8 billion people on the planet, mine was quite possibly the worst porch for them to be stealing from. Because I spent the better part of 7 years seeking revenge on a different species that was stealing from my porch. In the form of fake packages, fine glitter, and copious amounts of fart spray.
So this is what he does, right? Some of the videos he does, some of the things he does, right? So people tend to steal stuff like deliveries from his doorstep. So what he does is he puts a gift there and he tries to prank them with a gift. So if they steal the gift, then it's this glitter bomb. I mean, it's such a fun, it's such a hilarious way to get back at someone. I just think it's, creative.
Oh. Alright.
And so at this point, I needed answers. I wanted to know if I was really being targeted here. Actually, how smart is a crow? And after even a minimal amount of research, it turns out really, really smart. From playing an instrument, to understanding and manipulating human objects.
I can't even play the piano that well. Kudos to those crows.
I found a crow named Cheryl at a bird rescue sanctuary to represent their species as I tested the limits of their intelligence. And like any good scientist would, we started off with the first step of the scientific method, by just observing her with some cameras we placed in her enclosure. It was really interesting to see how her curiosity would drive her to figure out clever ways to interact with the objects in her environment, occasionally motivated by a strategically placed treat. It became clear she had a few favorite objects she loved to play with, like this wooden ball, as she demonstrated a surprisingly deep understanding of cause and effect. I've placed her favorite combo meal right here on this table. From sad experience, I know when she enters this room, the first thing she'll be drawn to are the juicy nugs, but it will be impossible for her to access them because of this reverse birdcage that's meant to keep birds out. And the only way for this birdcage to autonomously unprotect the nugs is if she solves all 9 of our puzzles, starting first right here on this desk. Because this is where Cheryl will find a graduated cylinder with her favorite wooden ball that's too far down for her to reach directly with her beak. So here's the question. If you're a crow, how would you solve this puzzle given all the materials you have at your disposal here on the table? Well, if you said you would take the heavy rocks and you would add them one at a time to raise the water level, you'd be right. So Cheryl will have to come to the same conclusion in addition to not using any of the other decoy materials like the cork or the cotton balls that would just float uselessly on the surface. Once she has enough rocks to get...
But I'm pretty sure if that like syringe or that container, what is that? Looks like a long glass object. But if the crow was really smart, right? Well, if it's an animal, like it's not going to think about what to put in the water. It's going to think about how do I topple over this object to get what's inside. But I guess we'll see what actually happens.
Get the ball. The water level will now be high enough to complete the electrical circuit with these 2 pieces of copper tape. That then sends a signal to an Arduino. This puzzle has been sufficiently solved, and after a few seconds time delay, a light automatically turns on, leading her to the next puzzle, aka the Scales of Justice. There are objects on the table to choose from, and if she adds enough of them to one side, it will tip the scales, triggering this limit switch here, indicating...
So the first 2 puzzles are like decision-making puzzles. It's more about it has to do more with how the crow perceives objects. Like, can it tell an object's density? Can it tell an object's like weight just by lifting it and knowing like it's going to work? Interesting.
The puzzle is solved, which will activate the lights on the Scooby-Doo portrait roulette. The goal for this puzzle...
Is that Mr. Beast? That's literally Mr. Beast. I swear that's Mr. Beast. Anyway.
Is to assess their facial recognition capabilities. Because I remember seeing a study where researchers captured and tagged a set of crows wearing a specific mask, and then later...
Is that like a foreshadow for an upcoming video? I wonder.
Them. So in our case, we left a picture of me in Cheryl's home enclosure, and every time she pulled on the leather strap underneath the picture of my face, she would get a treat. So to see if she remembers my face, even in different clothes, we'll rotate through these portraits that include decoys like Kevin the Backyard Scientist, and some guy who made a cameo in my lemon battery video, and if she pulls on the leather strap and rings the bell associated with my face, the piezoelectric sensor on the back will sense the vibration, and some money will flutter down from the ceiling, at which point we once again rotate the Scooby-Doo portraits. Then once she's correctly picked me 3 times in a row, she can move on to the next puzzle called the cash grab. In our case, all the dollar bills have NFC chips on them, and then...
Well, I mean, like birds in the past were used as messengers to like transfer letters between different destinations. So I can imagine that that's something simple that a crow would be able to do.
Money collection box has an NFC reader near the opening. So if the reader registers all 3 dollar bills have been added, it tells that to a microcontroller that activates a servo motor that opens this door, revealing a tool. Now, on the off chance she even makes it this far, Cheryl has to grab that tool and bring it to the next puzzle, aka the fishing hole. So here, Cheryl will first need to figure out how to bend the end part of this tool into a hook shape, after which she has to stick it in here and fish out the cup. Now the whole container system here is supported by a strain gauge continuously measuring the weight of the system. So when it registers it's lighter by exactly 1 cup, the next puzzle lights up. And this was a pretty straightforward cup stack challenge. So as they stack up, the electrical circuit gets closer and closer to being completed. And when she has the final cup she retrieved from the fishing hole, it completes the circuit, lighting up an old classic throwback from the squirrel obstacle course. You guessed it, the tourist trap. This is sort of...
Okay, so that one there with the different colored containers, that would be a bit more tricky because animals don't have the three-dimensional sight that we have. Unless I think birds have a four. Actually, you know what? I've actually I've watched a video where a documentary basically, and the person in the documentary said that birds have a four-dimensional sight. Like they can see they can see the different they can see like the magnetosphere or whatever you call it. You know, like the Earth has two poles and it has that electromagnetic those rings. So I think the birds can see that, but I wonder if they can see like colors on an object. So that would be interesting.
Sort of designed as a reprieve and a little bit of a fun break for the final two puzzles. When she sticks her head through the hole, allowing us to take her adorable picture, she's rewarded with an appetizer portion of a juicy nug to whet her palate and give her the strength to go the distance, which she'll need to face the penultimate challenge, aka the shipwreck. The idea behind this puzzle came from seeing crows coordinate their beaks and feet sort of like this. So Cheryl has to pull the cork off and then continue pulling up.
What if the crow doesn't even go through all of those stuff and goes straight to the end? Like, what if it how is it gonna know where to start? Like, that's the main challenge. Like, how do you get a crow to know where to start?
On the string, pinning it under her foot the whole time until she's pulled enough of the string for the ship to teeter backwards, triggering this tilt switch, sending the signal to activate the final challenge, the egg drop. So inside our egg, there's an IR emitter. But in order to access that, instead of teaming up with cars in a crosswalk, Cheryl will need to team up with our buddy Isaac Newton, harnessing the power of gravitational potential energy to break it open. Because if she manages to do that, after somehow solving all the other 8 puzzles as well, well then this IR emitter will trigger this IR sensor hidden at the base of the table, which will give the final signal to raise the bird cage, earning her the right to gorge on her well-deserved combo meal for as long as she wants, without any fear of me chasing her off my porch. All I had to do was wait. And I didn't have to wait long. And I should mention, while I do have an affinity for testing species like crows, squirrels, and even octopi, my favorite species...
Yes, that's the one. I actually watched both of them. The one with the squirrel, that's the one I watched.
Is humans. So I invited a few of them out to serve as a control group before Cheryl made her official attempt. Okay, to get the juicy nugs, you gotta solve 9 puzzles in this room. Any questions? Go. And the problem-solving skills kicked in right away.
I see light here.
Yeah, maybe
So like,
in the doors?
is he trying to test like
Hold on,
if
wait,
kids can do it
think
better
like
than
a crow.
To retrieve the wooden ball, they started by just trying to utilize all the various objects on the table. They started to recognize some patterns and pick up some confidence and momentum on puzzle 3, immediately demonstrating their own excellent
When you're a human, you don't need rocks. You just put your hand as weight.
facial recognition skills, with perhaps my favorite line of this whole video.
Hey, I reckon it's backyard scientist, the guy who helped with the lemon guy.
Yeah, so I was just thinking that all of those frames are actually not real paintings. There's like different prints of YouTubers' faces on each painting. So that's what I noticed.
And Mark Rober. Gotta get out before Mark gets here.
Now back to Cheryl. Just as I suspected, the irresistible prize inside the birdcage caught her immediate attention. And I can't blame her for trying the brute force shortcut, which of course comes up short. And as she steps back and surveys the situation, you can tell she knows this isn't going to be easy. So she starts out with a lap around the room, which admittedly was not very informative. At which point she remembers she has wings and starts checking things out from a higher vantage point. And you can almost see her trying to work things out as she recognized variations on a few elements and toys from her enclosure, because we tried to model some of the puzzles after them. But even still, ultimately she was left scratching her head on how to proceed until we officially kicked things off by lighting up the first puzzle, which piqued her interest enough to investigate further, and that's what she noticed: her favorite wooden ball. And just as I'd hoped, she immediately tried to retrieve it, but came up just short. So the question was, what would she do next? And this was the first moment I realized my nugs might be in trouble. Because just like the kids, she surveyed all the items at her disposal on the table, but unlike the kids, she settled immediately on the right answer. And right as I was thinking she was going to smoke the
Okay, I was not expecting that, but that was pretty clever.
kids in this competition, she recalibrated my expectations with a reminder that anatomically speaking, she was still in fact working with the brain the size of a grape as she dropped a rock into the cork dish. But then after realizing this wasn't quite right, she corrected herself by placing the rock into the empty beaker. After which, to her credit, she refocused her efforts. And it didn't take much longer to get to this point where she very cleverly used the bobbing action from the buoyancy force on the ball to save herself a few more rock drops. And with that, the sensor was tripped and puzzle number 2 was illuminated, indicating it was time to move on. Cheryl had a setup fairly similar to the Scales of Justice in her enclosure at home, so this was more of an underhanded softball pitch to allow her to build up some momentum. And sure enough, she got right to work, at which point she immediately quit work to try and force the balance beam into the completed position. But since the limit switch needs a sustained contact,
And I mean, they're about to take shortcuts, right? Because not everything can be solved one way. Like even though the puzzles are designed to be solved a specific way, like they have loopholes, and obviously the animals are going to expose it.
before lighting up the next puzzle, she ditched that plan with a return to her more conventional efforts. And she was surprisingly picky at which coins she wanted to add to the dish. So picky, in fact, that adorably she went back to get her favorite wooden ball to add to the tray. And look, not to nitpick, because she was doing great, but she displayed a fairly rudimentary grasp on the relative densities between a wooden ball and a metal coin, as she seemed sort of incredulous that wouldn't do the trick. But after one more coin, and a bit of an assist that I'm gonna let slide, limit switch was triggered, moving us on to puzzle 3, the Scooby-Doo portrait roulette. And right away, she seemed to recognize my face from her enclosure back home, because she immediately started cawing a bunch at my picture. And once again, while I don't speak crow, I'm pretty sure this translates to, "You're way more handsome than the lemon guy." Once she sufficiently expressed her feelings, she rang the bell under my picture, triggering the piezoelectric sensor, sending a dollar bill fluttering down. Now, we seen her stuff paper into tissue boxes back in her home enclosure, so to help nudge her in the right direction, the lights to the cash grab turned themselves on.
Okay, so definitely, like I said before, like how would you know how to start? So the lights definitely do help the crow to navigate to the different, games that are different puzzles that are installed for her.
And after a bit of poking around, she figured out what to do by putting the money in the box. At which point, nothing happened. And as you can see, this confuses Cheryl. And then it frustrates Cheryl as she tries to find another way in. We wanted her to ring the bell a total of 3 times to prove that picking my face once wasn't a fluke. So eventually, when no new lights come on and nothing happens, she makes her way back to the Scooby-Doo portrait roulette to troubleshoot things. Eventually, she rings the bell under my face once more, letting the dollar bill flutter by. And then one final time, only on this one, making an incredible Dude Perfect worthy mid-air grab right at the warning track. From there, it was pretty straightforward for her to stash both of the final bills. Registering a completion of the puzzle through the NFC reader, giving her both a jump scare and the tools she need for puzzle 5, the fishing hole. Now, fortunately for Cheryl, she hops on over to the newly lit puzzle without realizing this is a bring your own pole type of situation, which once again puts her at a dead end. But at this point, she seemed to have an understanding of the cause and effect relationship between the puzzles. So she scoots herself back over to the cash grab, grabs the tool, and then makes her way back. And on her first attempt, she tries to sort of wedge the cup with the stick, which clearly wasn't going to work, which leads to what is quite possibly one of the coolest things I have ever seen, as she goes full-on blacksmith mode, hammering away, fashioning the end of the stick into a hook, at which point she drops it back in, and successfully retrieves the cup. This, of course, is registered by the strain gauge, which communicates with the microcontroller, paving the way to the cup stack. And I knew this would likely be one of the easier puzzles for her, since she played with a similar toy a bunch at home. The trick would be if she could figure out the final cup in the stack was the one she caught from the previous puzzle. And sure enough, without too much difficulty, she stacks the first cup, and with just a little more difficulty, she stacks the second one. But once again, when no new lights come on, she quickly figures out our clever trick and out-clevers us, retrieving the top cup and bringing it back to complete the copper tape circuit, allowing her to move on to the crowd favorite, the tourist trap. Cheryl had earned every bit of a break by somehow making it this far. Plus, I figured she could use a little caloric nugget boost to give her the energy and motivation to finish this out. And in exchange for all that, she did not disappoint with the snapshot worthy of a postcard, which meant it was on to the penultimate puzzle, the shipwreck. And the calorie boost seemed to pay off, because without a whole lot to interact with here, she pretty quickly figured out she should just pull out the cork, showcasing her very skillful beak-claw coordination in the process. And as soon as she pulled it out far enough to teeter the ship, the tilt switch passed on the input signal, revealing to the room the final boss. And of course,
Okay, this crow is pretty. Crows are pretty intelligent,
I've shown just the highlights here from all her attempts on the puzzles, but she somehow persevered and made it this far, which meant if she figured this out, it would be an absolute clean sweep. So after sizing up the situation and considering all the options, she comes to the correct conclusion and teams up with Gravity, exposing the IR emitter, which gives the final signal it is time for her to enjoy the greatest meal of her little feathered life. And to no one's surprise, after solving all the complex puzzles in this escape room gauntlet, it was a pretty simple task to get right to the nugs. But before she'd even finished her long-coveted, well-earned reward, she delighted me with one final touching surprise as she grabbed another nug, slathered it in a little dipping sauce, and then offered it up, almost as a gesture of mutual respect and goodwill between our species. And I suppose—
Oh, that's so cute, man. Wait, let me go back to that. Wow. That is admirable. Well done, Crow. Well done. Okay, guys, so I'm gonna pause it here because, because that's pretty much the end of the video. Yeah, so that's actually pretty cool. I'm gonna go to a nice part of this. Where is it? This part's here. Yeah, I'm gonna use that as a thumbnail. That's pretty cool, man. Wait, actually, that's not a cool thumbnail. I mean, that's a cool thumbnail, but there's a better one. Wait. Oh no, but that one has Mark Roberts' face in it, so that's probably a better thumbnail. Because then we're reacting to. I'll be like, I'm the crow reacting to another crow. Okay, how do I get there?
respect and goodwill between our species.
There we are. Okay, so let me just screenshot that. Okay, cool. Alright, so guys, this has been Mark Rober testing the world's smartest crow. Obviously, you can see that the type of content he creates, very engineering-based content. Something where you'll always learn something about. You'll either learn something about a species, or you'll learn something about how to create your own devices. But Mark Rober can teach you all of that, and I really enjoyed this video. Sorry guys, my phone is going off. Okay, it's off now. Right. So anyways, thanks you. Who is this person? Jeez, man. I should put my phone off vibrate here. There we go. It's in silence. Okay, cool. Anyways, thanks so much for watching this video, guys. This is another reaction video. I was thinking that if I'm going to do reaction videos, I'm going to do them on one piece of content from a different channel every time. I feel like that would be a lot more of a better idea to react on. And it seems like a creative idea. Hopefully YouTube doesn't nail me for this because, you know, copyright issues and that. But I will be cutting out certain pieces of the clip and putting in just what needs to be done so that you guys can watch the full video yourselves. I take no credits on showing you. I take no credits on showing you guys parts of the video. It's all credit goes to Mark Rober. Yeah, and I'll see you all in the next video. Please leave a like, subscribe, and comment below. Thank you so much. Darshan out.